In this video, I'm going to show you how to customize your entire Adobe Illustrator working experience and your workspace. So let's dive in. This is one of my favorite things about using Adobe programs is how customizable everything is. In every program, it's a little different as far as what you can and can't customize. And you might need very different tools and layout than I need as an invitation designer. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I also have a free Illustrator course. If you're new here, check it out in the link in the description of this video. It'll get you all set up and working in Adobe Illustrator. So first, there's a few preferences. These are going to be your default preferences. And if you set any of these, you'll need to restart Illustrator, but this is going to be like how Illustrator works for you. So I'm just going to click on any of these. We'll start with general and then you see all the tabs here. I mostly leave a lot of this default, but there's a couple things that I personally do. And then you should read through a lot of these tabs and just make sure that you are customizing this to exactly how you want. For instance, if you're printing in Japanese culture, you might want Japanese crop marks. That's going to make things a lot easier for you. Zoom with the mouse wheel. That's something that's really common in some other programs as well. So I use most of that as default. In the selection and anchor display, you can do a few things like I sometimes want to check this move locked and hidden artwork with artboard because I don't want to have to unlock things before I move the artboard. You can also change the size of your anchor points and handles if those are feeling a little small for you. And then sometimes I'll turn off this hiding the corner widgets for angles greater. So I just always want that corner widget to be there even when the angle is really large. With type, there's a few things, for instance, showing font names in English or having your in-menu font preview. So that's going to show you what the word you have selected looks like in the font in addition to the font name. Units, this kind of makes sense. Sometimes with like seating charts, I'm going to change my type units to inches because I want to see how big that type is to make sure it's going to be big enough to be read across a room or in a darkened room or with a lot of people standing around. You can customize your guide and grid colors if you want to. This isn't like a huge functional difference necessarily, but definitely changing the size of the grid can be really important depending on the project. Your user interface, this is going to make me feel insane for a second. Oh my God, I hate this. I hate this so much. Everyone's got a preference. And then you can change the canvas color to white to match the artboard or just keep it with that darker color. And then also what's hilarious is you can change the color of the share button, but basically nothing else, which I find very funny. You can also scale the user interface. So all these icons, everything you're using here, if you need that to be a little bit larger. File handling is really helpful too. We always want this auto activate Adobe fonts because otherwise you're going to get font errors if you're using Adobe fonts. And then these recovery data, you can change how often that saves. 2 minutes is usually pretty good for me, but if you're running out of space on your computer, you save a lot or you need it to be quicker because you're working really quickly, you can change it down to like 30 seconds if you are losing a lot of data. And then I love this appearance of black one. I'm doing a lot of printing, so I like to make sure it's outputting all my blacks as rich blacks. I absolutely love that. And then also displaying them on screen as rich black as well. I love that one. So anything you change in here, you want to restart Illustrator before it's going to be taken into effect. But these are general preferences that will be default every time you open Illustrator after that. Now, as far as which tools you use, there's just so many. Like if I click on this here, there's just so many. So you can actually customize your workspace to have the tools that you need the most. For instance, I'm working a lot with type, so I definitely want type tools to be in there. I don't work a lot with gradient or 3D elements. There's a lot of things that I don't do so much, and so I don't need those to be as prominent. So over here on this side, I have added a lot of panels, and the main way to do that is just by finding the panels you need in your window section. And for instance, this gradient one, and you can move it around a lot. So I can have it floating here on my screen where I can pretty much access it anytime, or I can grab it and shove it into this dock over here, and we'll see we have gradient, but we also have stroke and transparency in that same general panel. You can move all of that around. You can just take out transparency and not take out stroke and gradient, for instance. We can also put it back in there. Anything that comes under one of these lines, those three are going to be connected. So if you wanted, for instance, glyphs to be connected to image trace, you could add that in here and we'll have image trace and then also glyphs in the same panel. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So I'm going to move glyphs down here into my character panel. So now I have character, glyphs, paragraph, and open type. And the reason that I've separated glyphs in the first place is because it's like way bigger. And so whenever you click on it, it changes the dimensions of that panel a lot. And I don't like that. So I like to have it kind of by itself here. And then we'll have the character, paragraph, and open type together. Easy to use. So these are pretty much all the tools that I use. And then what you want to do is you'll go into your window and this workspace section, and you'll click new workspace, and that's going to save the workspace that you have created here. So we'll just type this in as Laney's workspace. And then anytime you open Illustrator, you can switch between, Laney's will be kind of our automatic one here. You can switch between all of the different ones that we have created. These ones up here have been created for you by Illustrator. So if you click on Essentials, for instance, it's going to change to the Essentials. If you click on Automation, it's going to change back basically to what I had because that's my automation workspace. Tracing, let's see, it's going to change to some other tools. We've got like our AI generator space here. There's just lots of different options. So they do have some workspaces picked out for you, but we're always just going to want to just return to Laney's workspace because that is all the tools that I need. And then not so much about your workspace itself, but more about your working experience in Illustrator. You can always edit your keyboard shortcuts. I have a whole other video on the keyboard shortcuts that I've customized as a stationery designer, but I have this set called DBL, and what I've done here is just kind of erase some of the keyboard shortcuts I wasn't using and replace them with access to tools that I use more often so that I don't have to use my mouse as much and I can work a lot more efficiently. And then kind of an advanced keystroke thing, you can actually put a bunch of different tasks together into an action. I have a whole other video on this, but I'll just show you an example. Is I've typed this word and I can use this action to change it to look exactly like the other word action. We change the size, the font, the color, the stroke, and the stroke color all in one automatically. So check out that video to further customize your working experience here in Adobe Illustrator. So just as a reminder, you can change all of your different panels over here using this kind of workspaces section, this window tab to get all the different windows you like and put them where you're going to need them the most and group them together with the other tools you're going to need the most. You can also use edit preferences for all of your different default preferences that you want for every time that you open Illustrator. And if you want to dive further into actions or keyboard shortcuts, I'll link both those videos in the description. I hope this helped you work more efficiently in Illustrator. And if you're new here, definitely check out our free Adobe Illustrator course that will get you set up and running smoothly on Adobe Illustrator. I know it can be a learning curve at first, but this platform has so many possibilities and I'm really excited for you to dive in. Thanks, everyone.